Not gonna lie, Netflix, you had me in the first half. You had me in the first half. What's happening, guys? Back at you with another video. So we got the new live action Avatar, The Last Airbender from Netflix. I was able to check out and binge through the whole season. So what did I think about this? When it comes to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, I am one of the OG fans. I was there back in 2005 when it first premiered on Nickelodeon. And while watching it over the past 3 seasons, it quickly grew to being one of my favorite shows of all time. So I am a big fan. And then we finally get a live action movie back in 2010, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. And I was thinking right before that movie, like, okay, we're getting a live action. How are they going to do this? And lo and behold, they gave us something that was terribly wrong, something that was incredibly bad, something that didn't capture the essence of the original animated series. And then many years later, there was news of Netflix doing another live action adaptation of the original animated series. And the whole community, everybody, fans alike, groaned and wondered why. Just why would you do this again? But they were trying to do something a little different. They actually brought the creators on, but then the creators left due to creative differences, and that was a huge red flag. So that was a really bad sign. I was like wondering, man, what did Netflix do? What did Netflix do that the creators left and they just didn't feel like sticking around and seeing this through? It really felt like we're going to have another bad live action adaptation again, just like the movie. But maybe there was some hope. Maybe there was some hope. I mean, the movie was so bad. I mean, this new live action can't be as bad as the movie, right? Well, long story short, I'm glad to say that this one is not as bad as the live action movie. Now, of course, let it be said that nothing will ever top the original animated series. But the question is, how does this new live action adaptation live up to the original animated series? When it comes down to it, this new live action adaptation from Netflix is actually a decent one. Now, it's definitely not perfect, but I think it was able to at least capture some of the essence of the original animated series and be able to capture some of the things that we are looking forward to, some of the things we are going to enjoy and like from the original animated series. Now, of course, with every new adaptation, there's always some cuts and changes, and this show is no exception. There's definitely some stuff that was cut. There's some stuff that was changed. And of course, there'll probably be some of the changes that some fans will not like. You can't satisfy everybody. You can't satisfy every fan. But I think it's very possible that this new live action adaptation could satisfy most fans. Speaking as a big fan of the original animated series, of course, and like I said, it's one of my favorite shows of all time. As a fan, after watching this one, I could say that for the most part, of course, aside from a couple of changes and cuts here and there, for the most part, I could say that this was at least a decent adaptation and one that I was, for the majority of the time, satisfied with. I think when it comes to the characters and how well the actors are playing the characters, I think they do a pretty good job of being able to capture the characteristics and the different character arcs of different characters in here. Aang is not definitely a one for one, but he is definitely has some of those childlike qualities that we remember from the show, but he does have a little bit more seriousness in him. When it comes to Sokka, he's not as funny as his animated counterpart, but you can still see some of that sarcasm come through. And with this new live action adaptation, they did take his sexism characteristics out. You might get a slight hint of it, but they definitely did take a majority of it out. And at first, upon hearing that, before I watched this new live action adaptation, I was kind of against that because the whole deal with Sokka is that he is sexism and he becomes humbled later down the line in other seasons and becomes a great leader, learning from his experience. But as far as actually watching it in this series, honestly, it wasn't too off-putting that he wasn't acting the way he was. When it comes to Katara, it took a little time for her to be able to grow on me, but with each episode, she got better and better, and she was able to grow on me, and she was able to come fully formed into her character. She was able to come into her own as the season progressed, and she was actually able to, be able to prove herself, especially to others. When it comes to the overall core dynamic of the three main characters, I think they did a good job of having good chemistry and being able to play well off each other. But there is another core dynamic that needs to be really told really well in this series, and that is Zuko and Uncle Iroh. When it comes to the character of Zuko, Dallas does a good job of being able to capture those characteristics of Zuko to where he's very prideful. He is definitely by the book. He definitely follows the rules. And of course, he is always talking about his destiny of capturing the Avatar and being able to return to Fire Nation. When it comes to Uncle Iroh, I was definitely watching this character develop throughout the season, and I was just seeing and hoping that this character becomes like the character from the animated series where he's that mentor, wise man. And I gotta say, the actor definitely did portray that really well on screen and throughout the series. And when it comes to the overall dynamic between Zuko and Iroh, I think it was really done really well. The actors were able to be able to have this great chemistry with each other, and you're able to feel that dynamic between them where they're uncle and nephew, but like you just have that Uncle Iroh and Zuko relationship that we got from the anime series, and you can be able to see it and feel it in this new series. And there was even one moment in one of the episodes where we get a flashback, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I gotta say it's definitely a moment between them, and you just hear the way you see the scene play out, and it just speaks to their acting ability and the way they're able to capture the character, the essence of the characters. And you feel you hear a familiar hymn. Not gonna lie, it gets to you. It gets emotional. It gets to you. When it comes to one of the changes of the series, it features Ozai and Azula more heavily in this season. I mean, they don't show up a lot in this season, but they do show up heavily. And we're able to, be able to see their characters on screen and see how well they're able to portray their characters. And I gotta say, they do a pretty good job. When it comes to Fire Lord Ozai, Daniel Day Kim does a phenomenal job of being that ruthless leader. But there's small hints of something in there with his character. One slight change they did with Fire Lord Ozai is that in the animated series, he is definitely against Zuko, and he wants Zuko to be able to prove himself. But in the anime series, he definitely seems like he's ruthless against Zuko. In this new live action adaptation, there's slight hints that possibly he could care. He actually even complimented Zuko for capturing the Avatar. But it's later revealed in the season, by the end of the season, why exactly he was doing that. Like, there was an actual reason why he was actually showing some, not necessarily caring for Zuko, but showing a little something towards Zuko. When it comes to Azula, I think the actress playing her did a pretty good job of capturing some of those things where basically in the anime series, she is definitely trying to live up to her father's expectations. And you definitely get that in here. Basically trying to prove herself. But the way it comes across as Fire Lord Ozai actually feels like he doesn't really like the way that she kind of sucks up to him. And after like Fire Lord Ozai actually compliments Zuko on things, she doesn't necessarily become jealous, but she does definitely takes that as motivation to become better. And there was even a time that Fire Lord Ozai even said that her firebending was below average. But it's all revealed on why he exactly does that. When it comes to the character of Commander Zhao, he is definitely still conniving like he was in the anime series, but they changed his character a little bit to where he's actually kind of working with Zuko, but it's all a ploy. He's actually undermining Zuko and actually doing it for himself. And basically, he's just trying to get ahead. He's looking out for himself. He's trying to make himself look good. So he still has those core characteristics. All the other characters we get in here are definitely well acted. We also get Ty Lee and May that make an appearance in here. Suki, of course, is in this one of these episodes. The actor who plays Jet does play him pretty well as this cool dude, just like in the animated series. But when it comes down to Boomy, I think the actor who plays Boomy did a pretty good job of capturing that character of Boomy, where he's this wacky and just the way he's able to like speak. He actually speaks like Boomy in a way. Like you can actually feel how he speaks like Boomy. He's wacky and zany. But they do change a little bit in here to where he actually does kind of blame Aang for like leaving and missing out on these past 100 years, which was kind of a character difference. It was kind of a difference I wasn't expecting. But for the most part, you're able to see him capture those core characteristics of Boomy. When it comes down to the bending is done so well in this series. Like, definitely way better than the live action movie we got. Man, don't remind me about that. Like, the bending, it looks so good in here. Like, it feels real. The action and the fighting styles are definitely similar to the animated series. It almost feels like a couple scenes here and there or almost like plucked from the anime series and put into this live action. And even with the way that Aang fights, it definitely looks like it's situational kind of fighting where he's using his environment and objects around him. Almost feels like his Jackie Chan style a little bit. So I gotta commend them on that. The action and the bending, all the effects like that were done pretty well in this series. When it comes to some of the creatures that we're able to see, especially like with Appa and Momo, they did a pretty good job. They do look realistic in a manner. Of course, they won't look exactly like the animated series, but in this series, the way they did them, they look more like a realistic animal. And of course, we get some other creatures and spirits in here. And surprisingly enough, we actually get some that I wasn't expecting to get. But when it comes to all these spirits and creature designs in this series, they did a pretty good job with them. Like I was saying before, there is definitely some changes that they did. There is definitely some cuts. Some episodes were cut. I do plan on making probably a separate video on some of the major changes they did, and maybe another separate video on some of the episodes they actually cut out. But I will say, on the very first episode, is definitely exposition heavy. They give you a big exposition dump on basically what happened in the past back in 100 years ago. And I thought that was kind of a nice little change that they were able to do that. But that first episode is probably the heaviest when it comes to exposition. There's a couple of hints here and there to other exposition that happens throughout the season. But episode 1 is definitely the most exposition dump that we get. And within this series, we definitely do get some flashbacks. There is definitely some flashbacks here and there throughout some of the episodes. And the way that they play out these flashbacks is that whenever we have a character that's going through a situation, they kind of go to a flashback that kind of relates similar to the situation. So I didn't feel like the flashbacks were really overbearing, but there is definitely quite a few of them in here. But they always tie the flashbacks to a similar situation that the character is currently going to, like a situation that the character is currently going through, and they relate that to a flashback that was similar. And of course, this is definitely not a one-for-one shot-for-shot remake or anything like that of the animated series. There's definitely some changes, like I said, stuff that's cut. I could definitely see some fans that might not like certain changes, but when it comes down to it, I think majority of fans might accept those changes. Unless you're one of those fans that just wants a one-for-one, shot-for-shot remake of the animated series, you're not going to get it with this season. And when it comes to the animated series, it definitely had a couple of dark moments here and there. But I would say that this new live-action adaptation is definitely gets dark. I won't say super dark. It definitely pushes the limits of, it gets to like a PG-13 rating maybe at times, kind of dark. Like it does show burning people at times, and it does show, offing people a couple times. So you might get those dark moments a couple times here and there. And when it comes to the set designs, I think they did a pretty damn good job of doing the set designs. When it comes to some of the landscapes that we see, they look like they are really there inside the landscapes. The way that we get some of these overhead shots of like when the crew is flying on Appa, and you get some of these landscapes beneath them and you see how they are. Honestly, they're done really well. It does feel a little fast paced at a couple of spots here and there. Like maybe we could have spent a little bit more time on some different situations. Some different things that we could probably spend a little bit more time on to flesh out a little bit more. Costume designs are great in this series, and I was also surprised while watching this first season how they were able to incorporate elements of season 2 within this season. It was definitely unexpected. Of course, I won't spoil what those elements are, but you'll be able to know which ones they are. So honestly, it was just a total surprise on what they were able to incorporate from season 2 within this first season. Just little small tidbits and elements that they have from season 2 incorporate within this season. But of course, the question is, what do I think of this as a live-action adaptation of the original animated series? And I would say overall, after finish watching it, I would say this is at least a decent to pretty good adaptation of the original animated series. Like I said, of course, there's some stuff that was cut, some stuff that was changed. But I think a majority of Avatar fans will be able to find something they like about this new season. And I, for one, of course, besides from a little bit here and there from some changes and things like that, overall, I was able to at least enjoy this season and think it was at least decently done at adapting the animated series. Of course, nothing will ever top the animated series, but I think this one does a good job of getting pretty close and comes across as a pretty decent adaptation of the animated series. But that is going to be my thoughts on the new live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender from Netflix. If you were able to watch it, please let me know down in the comments below, what did you think of it? But that is going to do it for this video. Hope y'all were able to enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on so you know when I post the next video. If you're interested in some of the other videos that I was mentioning, where I might do a video for which episodes they cut out of the season, or what are some of the major changes they did, I'm thinking about doing those as shorts, so be on the lookout for those. But I hope y'all all have an awesome day, and I will see y'all in the next one.